Today we are joined by one of the great female fighters the sport has ever seen. She's one of the top strawweight contenders of the last decade and competed in the first ever UFC strawweight bout back in 2014. She's a two-time gold medalist in the IBJJF Brazilian National Championships, a pioneer of women's MMA, and currently overseeing business ops for UFC BJJ. Claudia Gadelha, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Verse Us with Eric Nixick. He is Eric Nixick. I am Randy Famerich, and this is Verse Us. Verse Us is presented by mybookie.ag. At MyBookie, you bet, you win, they pay. Head to mybookie.ag, use code VSUSPOD to get a bonus on your first deposit.
Thank you.
Good, huh?
Yeah, it's
Not
pretty
bad,
good.
right?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. It's a long time coming. We've been talking about it for a little bit, and I
We
haven't
just
seen
couldn't
you.
find you. We didn't know where
I
you
know.
were.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
always
hiding.
everywhere. You're all over the place. What's going on? What's happening right now in the life of Claudia Gadelha?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I retired from fighting 4 years ago, you know, and there is the whole identity thing that happens with retirement. And I've been focusing on becoming the person I want to become after retirement. You know, I feel like a lot of athletes get stuck on the idea of not losing their fighter or athlete identity. And I moved on the next day. The day I decided to retire, I was like, okay, who do I want to become? And I made a plan, I built the method, and I was like, I'm gonna become that, you know. And I'm making sure I'm becoming the person I aspire to be. And I've been working for the UFC since I retired. Like the day after I retired, I've been working for the UFC. Dana asked me to come in and help with the PI and help the fighters with, you know, life and finances, which is something I'm very passionate about. And then I worked at the PI for a year, but at the same time, I was helping the jiu-jitsu strategy in the UFC. And I helped them to shape into what it is today, which is UFC BJJ. We just launched the whole strategy where, you know, the UFC Fight Pass Invitational was created to bring subscribers for the UFC Fight Pass platform. But it was mostly an event created for MMA fighters and grapplers in general to come grapple for the UFC. And when I came in, I was like, this has the potential to be a whole league. You know, why don't we bring the best jiu-jitsu competitors in the world to shape this thing? And Dana loved it. The whole idea was to build a stage that makes sense for the sport, which is the bowl that we created, and also to reshape the rule set. We were using other people's rule set, and I was like, hey, Dana, we are the UFC. Why are we using other people's rule set? You know, and that was the first thing we did. I brought in some of the best jiu-jitsu competitors in the world that are coaches now to lead the committee team. And it's one of the things we do not have in MMA. We have, you know, boxing people trying to judge MMA, and in jiu-jitsu, I made sure I wanted to bring people that really understand the sport. And we spend a lot of time understanding how to make jiu-jitsu exciting, but also not lose the tradition of the sport, right? Because it's a sport that has been around for 100 years, but it's not exciting. So we spend a lot of time trying to understand how to make jiu-jitsu exciting. And I think we are delivering. Yeah, are you guys watching?
Yeah. You guys are what, 6 or 7 episodes in right now to UFC BJJ Road to the Title, right?
Yes, 7 episodes in. The last one is tomorrow. And then everybody will get to see who is in the finale. And the finale is going to be on June 25th in the UFC Fight Pass platform.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, put it out during the week of International Fight Week, right?
Yes.
So this week coming up. What was the concept behind Road to UFC BJJ? Just kind of like piggybacking off the Ultimate Fighter and really finding like those competitors. Is it global or is it US based right now for the competitors?
It's global. We have
global.
Brazilian fighters. We have Mexican fighters in there. I'll say competitors, right? Not fighters. But it's global. We want to bring the best in the world. And I feel like the UFC has the blueprint of what it takes to build brands, to build stars, and to build a sustainable business. You know, like I know a lot of people talk shit about the pay in MMA, but I actually believe the UFC that it's the only company out there that can give athletes a platform to go out there and build their brand. It's not like now it's your chance, it's your opportunity to build your brand to the level where you can go make a lot of money, you know. And you see all these other organizations failing because they can't build a sustainable business model that grows, you know. And that's the goal with UFC BJJ. We want to build a sustainable business model just like the UFC to make sure these athletes are getting paid. And this is one of the things that I want to make sure these people get paid, you know, and I'm there as a former athlete, always talking to the business people. We got to get these athletes paid.
Yeah. I think it gives more options too. Like, I mean, there's competitors that I know or fighters that I know that got into fighting because they didn't have that avenue. Vinny, for example. I mean, Vinny obviously is an amazing MMA fighter, but I think he would have fared even better if he was competing only strictly just in jiu-jitsu, but the pay wasn't the same. The pay wasn't there. Like, for him to go to ADCC, that was the only time he could actually make some good money, you know?
Yeah. Is the plan, or do you think the plan would be to maybe mix the BJJ and MMA in a UFC fight card eventually, or is it going to be separate entities where, like, again, BJJ is on a Friday and UFC's on Saturday?
Right now, the plan is to have UFC BJJ on Thursdays, and then Slap on Fridays, and then the UFC on Saturdays.
Right, so have it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? If we start putting a lot of exciting jiu-jitsu matches and we have like great MMA fighters wanting to grapple, like I don't know what's going to happen to the business of jiu-jitsu moving forward, but right now the goal is to keep it on Thursdays.
I would love to see them do it, especially on the numbered cards when they do the mock ceremony or the weigh-ins. Yeah. Do it that night. Do it that day. Yeah. Do it in that sort of platform because, you know, a lot of fans show up for those ceremonial weigh-ins.
Yeah.
But why not have an event during that time? So like, hey, even if they made it free, because like the ceremonial weigh-ins are free. But
yeah, because right now it airs anyway on UFC.com and YouTube, right?
Yeah.
The road to the so. Yeah, that's a great idea.
But they usually do like that press conference right before
Thursdays,
you know,
and then,
not even the press conference, but like a meet and greet or the before the weigh-ins.
Oh yeah, like the Q&A and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Q&A.
Yeah.
But why not make it something like that to where we'll have five events that day or five, you know, competitors come out and do their thing. Q&A and then the weigh-ins or something like that.
Yeah, it could work. I mean, it's a lot of work because I do remember. I think you fought on that card, the UFC 200 weekend. Thursday was a fight card, was also weigh-ins for Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Friday was a fight card, was also weigh-ins for Saturday. Saturday was a fight card. That was a lot of work.
Yeah,
like a lot, but it was awesome. Like there was 3 fight cards, 3 nights, like packed out every single night. So the way they do
Roy
it.
fought on like a Thursday or something.
Yeah, I fought on Thursday too.
Yeah.
That.
Yep. And then Eddie and RDA was one of the nights.
Yeah.
And 200 was
Brad fought.
Yeah. That was insane.
Corner fight, cut weight.
Yeah.
Run back, do it again.
Yeah, exactly. I want to touch on the retirement quickly because we had Joseph Benavidez in here and he was saying a lot of what you were saying about the identity factor. And, you know, he was a little bit different than you in the fact that he said that first year was probably the hardest thing he's ever went through. But you said you were able to kind of switch it real quick. Why do you think you were able to do that? Like, how did you kind of be able to transition so quickly?
Yeah, it's funny because you were talking about Vini, right? And if I like go back to just a little bit of my story, I started training jiu-jitsu as a kid because I saw my mom struggling to raise 5 kids and having a lot of problems to raise 5 kids and not have enough food in the house. And when I looked at that, I was a very energetic kid. I said, fuck that. I am going to be the one changing that pattern of poverty in my family. And I decided to make that change in my family. Then I looked around and I was like very young, 13, 14 years old. I looked around and I saw Gleidson Tibau. You guys remember him?
Of course.
He is 20 minutes from where I'm from in the northeast of Brazil, a place with no opportunities. And I remember people saying that he left his hometown and made it all the way to the UFC. And through fighting, he was able to change his life. And when I looked at that, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. It's my opportunity. It's the only thing I can do. I have energy. I'm going to put all my energy into this. So then what I did, I got a ride on the highway. Like at 15 years old, I found my way to the highway. I got a ride on the highway. I hitchhiked all the way to Natal. That's where Renan, Barao, José Formigas, all these guys were training. And I got there and I said, I want to train here. And I lived at the gym for 3 years, from 15 to 18 years old.
Was that Novo Uniao?
Novo Uniao. Yeah. Okay. So sold sandwiches at the beach.
Yeah.
And I was saving money to make something out of jiu-jitsu first. In my mind, it was going to be jiu-jitsu. Like, I didn't even understand MMA, and women was not even in the UFC yet.
Because what time period is this? Like early, mid-2000s?
2006, 7. Yeah. I made it to Rio at 2008.
Wow.
So 2008, I saved enough money to buy a flight to go to Rio, because that's where the best fighters were in Brazil. So Jose Aldo, Renan Barao, and José Formiga were already there, and I said, that's where I'm gonna go. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, I sat in front of André Pederneiras' gym for like 8 hours waiting for him to walk by, because I didn't have money to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. I needed help, you know? So when he walked by, going into the gym, I'm like, Andre, I'm from Natal, affiliation of Novo Uniao, and I trained with Renan, and I want to train here. I want to be a fighter. And he looks at me. He goes, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do." And I was so persistent and confident that he was like, "Okay, I'll give you you can train here for free." And he put me in touch with one of his friends that owned little rooms in the favelas. And it was like 150 reals a month for me to live there, like $30 a month for me to live there, but in the middle of the ghetto. So I lived in the favelas, a 40-minute walk every day from the gym to my place. And that was my path, right? I'm here. I am going to make this work. I do not accept to fail. And when I started training there, and I was watching Aldo kind of, he was not even at WC yet. He was fighting for Jungle Fight. And, all the fighters that were trying to go to the UFC and transition from jiu-jitsu to MMA, they were all together. It was like 100 of us trying to make it to the UFC. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to do exactly what these guys are doing. I'm going to copy all the training sessions. I'm going to be here every day, and I'm going to find my way one day to the top, So I kept doing that, copying their best fighters' behaviors and hanging around them. And then at the same time, I started thinking like, hey, and also hearing a lot of, because André Pederneiras is a businessman, so I watched him a lot, what he was doing when he would, get money from fighting. And I was always watching him, and he would talk to me about like what would be next if one day I would make it to the UFC, So I started thinking about all these things, and I got a scholarship, and I went to law school. Very, very young, right? Like 18 years old, made that decision, went to law school with a scholarship from jiu-jitsu. Like in my first fight in the UFC, I'm wearing my school patches on my clothes,
because this
all
was
that stuff.
The fight kit.
Before Reebok.
Yeah,
but my point is that, I wanted to be a jiu-jitsu competitor. I wanted to make money through jiu-jitsu. There was no career path there.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'm going to do what Jose Aldo, Renan Barao is doing. I'm going to go, try to make it to the UFC one day. And I made it all the way to the UFC, fought for the title, became one of the best to ever do in that division, and then, when I look at what I did in my life, I'm like, that was pretty dangerous and crazy for a little girl.
When you say 15, dude, that's my middle daughter. That's Avery. And I'm like, what? Like I would freak out.
Imagine her just like,
nope,
booking a hitchhiking to LA, and you know what I mean? Like,
finding her way through.
If there's any daughter that's gonna do it,
it's Avery.
It's Avery.
So I kind of was thinking about my next thing, and you guys can look that up, but there's so many studies explaining how, like, if you can see yourself in the future, you can make way better decisions, you can build way better relationships, you can take care of your finances better because you can see yourself 10, 20 years ahead. And I was seeing myself 10, 20, 30 years ahead. And when I was fighting, I was like, okay, I know this is gonna end. I need to know what's next.
It's already
I was
been written.
preparing for what was next. And I was always like studying finances to make sure I was investing my money, to make sure I was going to be able to retire young, because I also didn't want to get punched in the face and kicked in the head for my whole life.
Right.
You know, so when I turned 32, it was like, okay, I got an Airbnb business. I got my money invested. I'm getting hit in the head a lot. I don't like this. You know, I'm just going to retire. I was financially stable, but the identity thing, it was like, I understood what it takes for you to rebuild your identity. And I spent a lot of time with myself alone, understanding myself and the things I liked. And then I built the plan, okay, what I want to be, right? What I want to be.
So in a way, did you, because what you said is you understand how to rebuild your identity. So in a way, when you retired, did you kind of take yourself back to when you were 15 and like almost building your identity as a fighter? And you were just like, now I just have to go back and like redo this, but from a business person standpoint or something like that.
It's so funny because I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I go like, okay, when I wanted to become a fighter, what did I do? I copied other good fighters' behaviors and I started doing the things that good fighters did, right? That's what you do when you try to be anything.
Right.
So it's like, okay, now in business, like I want to be like Dana. I want to be like the best. I want to be like people that do it very well. And I'm pretty sure, like, Eric, you relate to that. You became a great coach.
Yeah,
and
being around Fallis and being around guys. Yeah, Randy.
So, like, you had to rebuild that identity, right? And you
100%.
just start embodying the person you want to become based on the examples you have in front of you. And thankfully, I had really good examples in front of me when I was young. Like, I feel like I found my way to Jose Aldo's gym, but I also feel lucky that it was that gym with so many good fighters, and I spent 10 years there learning from these people, you know. And now the same thing in business. I feel lucky to be around the people I'm around and to be learning from the people I'm learning from. But that embodiment of identity is the thing that you have to keep pushing. And it like, here's the thing too, like rebuilding your identity is not passive, right? When fighters retire from their, or any athlete in general, right? When athletes retire from their athletic career, they kind of want to step back and look at everything, and they don't want to do anything because they can't see what they like. But I feel like that's what leads to depression, anxiety, because then you sit back with feelings of grief and kind of wishing that you still had the fighting, or wishing that you could have it forever. And I think that's what leads to the bad feelings and you know, the suicides we see in sports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people probably chasing it one more time and one more time and one more time.
Yeah, I think what was hard for Joe was Joe completely took himself out of everything, like ripped the Band-Aid off and didn't even come into the gym. Whereas like Claudia was still in the gym, but also working for the UFC and doing things in a transition. Whereas like you said, it was the next day. Like I saw her on the PI and we're chatting it up, but it was still around the community is my point.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel like it's that camaraderie that you miss out on, like being around the gym and the shit talk and like all the stuff that we would do as you know, as teammates.
Right.
That I feel like a lot of, like, I know Joe missed a lot, but Joe was just, dude, he was gone. It's like,
cold turkey.
I didn't see Joe for like a year and a half, 2 years.
But it's hard too for like, you, like I was saying, you have to be active, right?
Yeah.
You can't be passive, but it's also hard to be active because you're going to put yourself in the middle of the identity you can't be anymore, right? So I'm like,
That's
I'm there talking to Eric now at the gym, and I'm not the fighter anymore. I'm somebody else, but I can't, like, it's hard for my brain to understand who I am. So like, to this day, when I go to fights, I feel weird. I'm like, oh shit, I'm not the fighter.
Right.
Take a deep breath,
Yeah.
understand who you are and behave like that, right?
Yeah.
But like at the gym, sometimes I'll see Eric, I'll see the fighters I like, I shake their hand, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm the fighter, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It's such a weird process, but then it takes repetition. It takes resilience. It's just like building anything good in life.
Sure.
Rebuilding your identity is just building anything. Like anything you try to build, a new business, you're trying to become a fighter, you're trying to change careers. It's just like anything hard, anything good in life.
Yeah.
And you were working with like Derek, right? For a little while, like right away. What's his last name?
Derek Moneyberg.
Moneyberg. Yeah.
Yeah, I was spending a lot of time with his crew too. He has a bunch of students, so it's like coaching his students in mindset and what to do when you want to make money, you know. And it's funny enough, I spent so much time understanding how not to be broke again,
Right.
that I was like, okay, I actually have a lot to share, you know.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with finances too.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Just want to say thanks for continuing your support for the Versus Pod. If there's anything you guys like to see more, guests, comments, constructive criticism, whatever it may be, love to hear your thoughts. Please like and subscribe to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in and enjoy the show.
I want to go back to you leaving home because I read that your mom was like really against you fighting or even doing BJJ, right? How did those conversations go? Like, obviously you leave, but like, do you continue to have those conversations with your mom? Like, are you like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing it, or what was your relationship like when you just left?
That's like a very sensitive part of my life because my mom fully rejected me. And like when I started, and it's funny because I had a good intention. I was like, I'm going to change my life through fighting. But if you think about it, you know, women was not allowed in the Olympics not too long ago. Women was not allowed in sports not too long ago. And my mom, she's 80 years old now. And you know, when I started to want to play sports for where I'm from, like the little ghetto town where I'm from, this is almost illegal, right? So my mom is like, you're not doing that. I'm like, yes, I am.
Because she was very traditional in that regard.
Very traditional.
And she thinks she's looking out for you in that way. Like, no, you're not doing this.
Yeah.
But you just, oh, wow.
That's why I think, you know, I don't blame her for what she did, because I think that's what she had, that's the information she had. But I was fully rejected. And when I left, I actually tried to go back to get my stuff at the house, and I knocked at the gate asking for, you know, my sisters to open the doors for me to get my stuff. And my mom called the neighbor in front of my house, and my neighbor comes out and he said, hey, your mom is on the phone here at my house, because my mom was at work. So my sisters called my mom and said, hey, she's back. And then my mom called the neighbor. So the neighbor shows up in front of the house and say, hey, your mom is here on the phone. She wants to talk to you. So I get the phone, and then my mom is like, you're not my daughter. Like, you already left. Make sure you're never coming back. I'm like, fuck.
Man.
Okay. I got it. You know?
Yeah.
And I found my way to the highway. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not coming back. But, you know, I don't blame her. I think that was like something that gave me a lot of strength and motivation to win. And on my way to Natal, to the gym on the car ride, I was thinking, you know, about the things I was gonna build. And I remember going back home to my mom to like rebuild our relationship. And I had to kind of ask her to forgive me for the things I didn't do, so she would let me in, so I could explain myself and expand her vision. And, you know, I remember like going back, and I'm like, all the things I dreamed about, they are true now.
Yeah.
You know, and they happen, you know. And if you ask me, one of my biggest achievements in life was to rebuild my relationship with my mother.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And also like give her a good life, you know.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
How does she feel about it now? I mean, obviously, dude, you're a fucking pioneer for the women's sport, right? Like, when you look at that now, she's got to understand what impact that you've had on women's MMA. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, I think she still don't understand, you know, because it's like
that's how parents are. Right?
Yeah,
they never get it.
But like also like she's in a place where there's not much information, a lot of crime. She's watching TV all day. There's like all these things that happened in my childhood shaped who I am, you know. But it's also like I don't think it's healthy for my mom to be where they are. I tried to take them out of there and move them elsewhere, but they went back. It's just like being there, and I don't think she understands what I did, but she's happy for where I am in my life now. She's like very proud, and one of the best things, like she loved the idea that I retired. She loved that.
I bet.
Yeah.
Has she watched like any of your fights or stuff like that? Like, was she ever able to come to any?
No,
No.
never. Not her, not my dad. I heard that every time when I was fighting, she would lock herself in the bathroom and pray on her knees.
The whole time.
Yeah,
That's what Megan used to do with Joe.
Yeah,
I
Joe,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah,
At
she'd
the
watch-
arena,
she'd
she
go
would
into
be
the-
like in the room, like what bathroom, locker room, something.
Yeah.
And just be like,
Shut it
couldn't-
off.
yeah, couldn't watch it. Pray.
I used to have to text her.
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
have to text her like after the fight.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't want to hear from anybody but you.
Yeah.
Let me know what the outcome was. You know, and I'm like,
Damn.
oh,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, This is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then like one time I think I fucked with her. I was like,
Oh, dude,
I was
you
like,
can't-
I can't remember what fight it was. I was like, this was a war. It was back and forth and whatever, but Joe won. You know?
That's funny. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you sharing
Yeah,
that. That's an amazing story. And to Eric's point, you being a pioneer, like when you get to the UFC finally, 2000, what was it, 13, 14, somewhere in there, like when you're competing in these early fights, do you even realize like what's happening in the sphere of like women's sports? You know what I mean? Like you're one of the first ones. You're the first strawweight fight, right? And you and all your colleagues are some of the first ones to really put this on a big stage. Are you kind of aware at that time when you're fighting, like, oh, this is like we're having a moment here?
Yeah, I was, because it was hard for us to make it out there, right? I was about 6-0 when I made it to Invicta, and when I made it to Invicta, I'm like, okay, things are better, making a little bit more money. It was like 4,000. Like, damn, I was selling sandwiches at the bench not too long ago. It's like what some people making a day, but I was feeling it. I was like, okay, we got here, and now. At that time, also, Ronda Rousey was such of a star that everybody was talking about women's MMA.
Right.
And I felt like we arrived. I'm like, we finally arrived, and we're here to stay. And the strawweight division was the most exciting division in women's MMA.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of Joanna, Carla Esparza, Rose Namajunas. And I was like, damn, we're here, and we're here to
Yeah.
stay. We got some good fights to make.
Yeah. That was such an exciting time. I remember all of that stuff. And watching you guys kind of like slowly, because at one point it was like the premier division. Like you could argue with the men too. Like women's strawweight was like on fire at one point. The fights with Joanna, I want to touch on that. Like, why do you think y'all had such bad blood? Like, why'd you guys butt heads so much? Was it strictly competitive, or was it like, was there more to the story there?
Like the first fight, I really felt like I won the fight.
Yeah,
A lot of
split.
people did.
You know,
a lot of people
The
did.
judges, can't live it to them. I felt I won the fight. I was 11-0, and that was going to be my opportunity to fight for the title against Carla Esparza. That was the champion.
Which, by the way, hadn't you had like one or two fights scheduled with Carla already at that point? Like
Yeah.
they had been canceled, right? So I'm sure there was like, you wanted that Carla fight so
Right.
bad.
So bad. Yeah, I had 2 Carla fights scheduled. One, I broke my nose like a couple days before flying to America, and the other one, I made weight. We went to the weigh-ins, we faced off, and then I got food poisoning and left the hotel in an ambulance.
Oh, shit.
no.
Was that after your rehydration?
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn.
And I thought I was going to die. It was my 25th birthday. Like, I was going to fight on December 8th. My birthday's December 7th. I was in the hospital December 7th,
Oh, no.
25th, 25 years old, thinking I'm dying in a hospital in America by myself. But then, with Joanna was such of like, I thought I won that fight. She's like very humble in the end of the fight. She's like, thank you, the judges. I think Gadelha is the number one, but that's it. I won. Okay. I said, okay, I'll run it back. I'll run it back. So I'm back home, started training again, and we went to the Ultimate Fighter, and Joanna was very disrespectful to me and my team as well. She's trying to, she told me things like, you are a monkey, go back to the jungle, get out of here. Like, it's one thing to, sell a fight, but, I can't be that disrespectful to anyone. I'm kind, I'm nice, and I just felt like she was very disrespectful, and that's where I got really, really mad at her, and I was like, okay, I hate you. I don't like you.
Yeah. Damn. That was such a great rivalry, I thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was must-see TV. That Ultimate Fighter season was amazing. Because that was the Khalil season, right?
Yeah.
You right, if I'm not mistaken?
Khalil was in her team, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was incredible. Have you guys ever like spoken since or reconciled or anything like that?
No, she, the other thing too, like Joanna pushed me to be the best I could, right? So like now I have no bad blood with
So
her.
all water under the bridge.
I haven't met her in person yet. After, when she got inducted to the Hall of Fame, she talked about me and said, Gadelha, sorry for everything I've done to you, and I like you. She said like really nice things, and I don't know, I don't hate her, but I think that I'm never gonna be friends with her.
But it's the rivalry you needed.
Yeah, it was what I needed.
Yeah, it's the rivalry you needed
to be push myself to be the best.
Were you in Vegas full time at that point, or when did you start coming to Vegas and going to XC and stuff like that?
2018.
So that was right around that. Oh no, that was after that fight, right?
It was after.
After that.
That fight was in 2016.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what made you come to Vegas? Like, did you come right from Brazil to Vegas, or did you go somewhere else in
You're
the US?
Albuquerque for a little while.
Albuquerque,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you were?
Albuquerque.
Jackson
Yeah.
Wink?
Yeah, Jackson Wink.
Okay.
I was so like I was training in Brazil for Joanna's fight. I knew that I was gonna fight her about 6 months before the fight, and my coaches over there, and I don't know if you guys have seen the way people train in Brazil. I guess now it's different, but it's actually what made me a good fighter, but it got to a point where my body couldn't
Just
take
beat the
that
shit out
type
of
of
each other,
yeah.
right?
It was
Yeah.
like
It's like hard sparring 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Gray Maynard went there.
Came out there and trained with Aldo.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time there, and he was telling me, I think there's better ways to do this. You guys don't have to go hard like that, And I agree.
And this is Gray coming from a triple tour
Right?
Yeah.
where we went fucking
Yeah.
hard.
Who had those wars with Frankie?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I was very, I was trying to change the culture of something that was built like that.
Sure.
And then I got into bad bloods with Andrea. He was like, when you got here, things was that way. Why you're trying to change now? I'm like, just because I'm trying to save my body.
Yeah.
So I can't have a life after fighting, But it wouldn't change, the training wouldn't change. So it's like, okay, let me see what's going on in the US, and I came here, was like, okay, that sounds better.
Yeah.
There's recovery. You guys recover. There's,
Drills.
there's drills, there is like ice baths, there is, physical therapists. I didn't know what any of this was, And when I came here, I was like, I need that so I can, have a life after fighting. And broke my tooth, split my face open so many times. I fucking went to the hospital so many times just training, So it was like, okay, I'm fighting and training. Let me move to America. And I went to Albuquerque. I trained with Chris Luttrell, and I would also go to Jackson Wink and train with Michelle Watterson, Holly Holm, all the girls they had out there. And then Albuquerque is very good for training, but it's also a very depressing place. I was like, I'm moving from Rio de Janeiro to this, and it's dark, dangerous. I want to go somewhere else. Then I asked Dana if Vegas was a good place to be, and he said, if you find the right coaches, it will be. So that's when I moved here, about 2018.
Did you have many girl training partners when you were in Brazil?
No.
Yeah, I would venture.
Who were
to
your
guess.
main like training partners?
Aldo,
Barao and Aldo,
Renan, Barao, and Jussier Formiga.
God damn.
Just
I was
murders,
like,
bro.
they treated me like they're a little brother, not even sister,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Especially
Holy
Formiga, because
Yeah.
Formiga is like
125. Right?
125,
size,
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Chris Luttrell, OG.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really
Yes.
know him, but
Yeah.
he was one of the pioneers of even like
He was
Jack-
on Tough, right? 1 or 2? Wasn't he on one of the
Could've.
Frank
seasons?
Mears one, I
think
think.
so.
Yeah, he coached
Yeah.
Frank
Yeah.
Mears.
Yeah, he was on one of them.
He's a cop, right?
He's a cop.
Yeah.
That's like the pipeline now. I saw Johnny Hendricks is a cop now.
Yeah.
There was one other fighter I just saw that's
Yeah.
also a cop. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's like the
Well, we got a
the
lot of
MMA
guys.
fighter
John
pipeline.
Alessio,
Yeah.
Shy Lindsay, a lot of guys from our gym now are
Yeah.
police officers that went over there.
Speaking of Albuquerque, did you guys expect John to retire?
I don't, dude.
He got in trouble last night again, right?
I
Yeah,
saw that.
saw that.
convenient timing on the retirement.
Oh my God.
I thought that was pretty crazy, but I don't think he's retired. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Yeah. What's the chances you think he comes back? Over 50 or under 50%?
Over
100%. Over 50.
I don't think he's done. Like I don't think he's done. I think he just he can do so much more still. He's so fucking good. Like
maybe like
Francis started texting last night.
Maybe like a non-title fight in Allegiant Stadium. I was like 2026 again.
I said gimmick promotions.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, well, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the fight, dude. We talked about it like 2 weeks ago. You don't need a title. The title doesn't mean what it once did, unfortunately. You know, like it just the fact of the matter. And Francis and John don't need it. You know, so anyway, we'll go back to a regularly scheduled conversation. So you retired 2021, your last fight, and did you know going into that fight? Like, did your body feel like it was time to kind of retire? Did you want to have maybe more fights after that? What was the process for you?
I was feeling that my body wasn't the same anymore. I didn't have the same speed, even though I was still young. And here's the thing too, right? Like my body wasn't feeling the same way. Too many injuries. I trained like I fought for 10 years at Novo Uniao. Yeah. Like my body didn't like to get hit anymore. I'm like, it had so much damage and so much care for my life after fighting that I was like, I think, that's it. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the last one, but it was very close to the last one because I was thinking about retirement since I was about 28, 29 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So you were thinking about it for a few years.
I was.
Wow.
Yes.
You had a couple concussions leading up to. That's what I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happened on that fight. After the 4 days after the fight, it was here in Vegas during COVID.
And that was against
Jan
Shannon.
Yeah. 4 days after, I started feeling like a type of headache where it felt like a knife is stabbing the back of my head. I was very sensitive to light. I wanted to hide in the dark room. I didn't want to talk to anybody, and I'm like, what's going on? So I called the UFC. I was like, I think I need an ambulance. I'm dying. Like something is happening. And they were like, are you sure you need an ambulance? Does a Uber work? I was like, okay, send me an Uber. Take me to the hospital. So they took me to Dr. D at the Spring Valley Hospital. And when I got there during COVID, so the hospitals were packed. And they did a bunch of brain scans on me and all the testing. And then the doctor's telling me that my brain's swelling and I had to stay there. He said, you have to stay here more. We need to do a few more testing. Your brain is swelling. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know. But anyways, I was diagnosed with a post-concussion syndrome, which is the symptoms of a concussion that last a long time. So I spent about 10 months going to physical therapy and suffering with, my heart rate would go above 130. I would puke.
Yep.
If I left my dark room and the light hit my eyes, I would start feeling the symptoms again. So I spent a lot of time at the house alone, thinking about life. Yeah. And then after that, in November of the same year, I got cleared to go fight, and I went back to the gym. I went back to Extreme Couture. I started training, and every time I got hit in the head, even during jiu-jitsu, because I would use my head to stop moves sometimes. Even during jiu-jitsu, I was like, I don't like that. I don't want to play with my head like that. I'm just going to stop. So that's when I made a decision. I remember the exact thing I was doing. I made that decision at Extreme Couture, training. I was like, I'm not going to fight anymore.
What were you doing? Like, what was the exact thing?
Rolling?
Or?
Yeah, I was rolling. I was in somebody. It was mounted in somebody, and they kind of tried to buck me to the side, and I stopped with my head, and I was like, I don't like this. I got dizzy, and I was so afraid of going through the same thing again. So I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to get out of here and go home and call the UFC and tell them that I'm done.
Good on you, though, because that's not the case with so many athletes.
It's bad, man, when it gets to that level, too. I remember, Campman was the same way.
Yeah.
And I had that from football. And my biggest thing was I couldn't regulate my temperature. I'd be freezing cold and it'd be 120 degrees outside. But the light was the biggest one for me. Like, you just want to lock yourself in a fucking room and not see anything and be around it, you know? But yeah, you go through that depression phase, not necessarily knowing what's wrong with you, you know, and it's so hard to identify at that time.
Damn. That's insane. I mean, like I said, good on you, because you've seen far too many athletes in our own sport, in MMA, but in football as well, that they just try to push through it because that's that mentality, that athlete mentality. We're just going to push through it. And it ends up being the worst mistakes of their lives. So, good on you. You touched on it earlier about learning about finances and stuff like that. We've all heard horror stories of athletes post-career blowing everything. $1 million contracts, $100 million contracts, this, that, blow through it all. What was it about, or how have you been able to be just as successful, if not more successful, after fighting? What was it that interested you about finances and obviously just being successful?
Yeah, I want to be successful, right? Like, so before, if you think about fighting, right, I was like, okay, I don't really want to get hit in the head, but this is the thing I need to do to become successful, you know? So like when I see people trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, I always say, do the thing that will help you to become financially stable first, then you can go do what you love, you know? And this is kind of what I did. I did fighting. Yeah, I love the sport, yeah, but I did not like to get hit in the head. And I also did not like the anxiety before the fight, right? Sure. Like a lot of people don't like. GSP talks about that. He never liked it. He hated it, right? I could deal with it, but I never really fully liked that feeling. Some fighters do. Right. So then, you know, I spent a lot of time trying to understand how to not go back home to my mom broke, you know, and that's when I started understanding the financial system in Brazil. And when I moved here, it was like, this country is so rich. There's so many opportunities here. I really want to understand the financial system in the US. So I spent a lot of time understanding how I could invest my money, studying business. And, you know, every time I got my fighting money, I was like, okay, how can I, because here's what most people do, right? You get your work money or your fighting money and you pay bills and then there's no money left. Right?
A cycle.
It's a cycle. And then you go, you want to go, you trade your time for money to get the money, pay bills, and do it again, right? So I started thinking, how do I get money, but instead of paying my bills, yes, I'll pay my bills, but I will live below my means, way below my means, so I can buy assets or better the assets I already have. So then my assets can pay for my bills and I don't have to work.
And you keep your principal.
Exactly. I don't have to work and trade the fighting money, the work money, trading the time for money to pay for bills. I'll let my assets pay for my bills. So I spent a lot of time understanding how to do that, and I did that through real estate first, and then I fell in love with the stock market. It's fascinating when you fully understand how it works and how to kind of plan your whole life understanding the markets. It's pretty fascinating. So that's what I do on the side now. I help people to kind of understand what to do with their finances to get to their goal. And I don't think anything of like short-term day trading or anything. I think very long-term, sophisticated investing, making sure you're keeping your money, not only for you, but for your family. I like legacy building, wealthy strategies. Like that's like the thing I do outside of the UFC that I love.
Yeah, I mean, because you're doing, so you have asset management, you have real estate, you got UFC BJJ, right? You have like this portfolio of life after fighting. What is the, what do you think the one thing is that athletes need to understand the most or don't understand once they retire about their finances?
I think there's, the same way you plan for a championship in fighting, like you plan to become the champion, and I always tell people, like, whatever you are trying to achieve, you need to understand what's the method that will take you there, People, like fighters, need to understand how much money they need in order to retire, right? Like, how much money do you need to have that money working for you to then go live your life and don't have to worry about anything ever again? And I think that formula of seeing how much money, and this is for everybody, right? Like, if you understand what type of lifestyle you want to live and how much money you need every month and every year, then you know what your expenses are. And this is based on your goals. Like you want to fly first class, you want to have a nice car, you want to live on the beach, you want to have a house in Vegas and another one in LA, or you just want to live a simple life, right? Like nothing is wrong, but it's based on what you kind of like want for your life, right? If you want a life where you spend $200,000 a year, now how much money you need invested to pull that $200,000 out of your bank account and not have to worry about money ever again. I think that formula is what people miss, and athletes kind of chase the highest they can get. Like, what is the most money I can get? And that's when you kind of like lose yourself. If you're chasing the highest and don't really have a goal, you're like chasing 10, 20 world titles, not really understanding what your life is going to be after that. Right. So I think in finances in general for everybody, but most importantly for athletes, is to understand how much money you need invested and what's the best plan to get there. That way you will have time to focus on fighting, but you know that your life will be good after fighting when you achieve that goal.
Did you ever get into crypto?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I like Bitcoin. I don't fully go into crypto yet because it's not fully regulated yet. But I believe in Bitcoin. I believe it's the future. Don't put all my money in there.
Yeah.
But I believe in Bitcoin.
Yeah. See, I went to the Bitcoin conference last month. Yeah. Or was it a couple weeks ago? But I'm with you. Like, I'm skeptical on it, but out of all of them, Bitcoin is the only one that I put my money into. Yeah. But at an arm's length, right? I'm not like, 10 toes into or 2 feet into Bitcoin.
When Francis wanted to get paid in Bitcoin, all in Bitcoin.
Yeah. His numbers, I'm sure, is like this over the last
freaking the
5
fuck
years.
out, bro.
It's very volatile.
After, a couple weeks ago, he was probably in a really good spot.
Yeah, for sure.
It soared back up.
Yeah.
All right, that's some great advice. That's free game for any of you athletes watching this. Do you work with any athletes? Like, you don't have to name who they are or anything, but do you work with any athletes currently, whether it's MMA or outside of MMA?
I do, and I like I like teaching the athletes what to do. I don't want to manage your money. Like, I will teach you what to do, and you do it. Like, I had an athlete yesterday asking me to help her to refinance a house. I'm like, I'll teach you how to do it. And she was also asking for a lender that would help her to refinance her house. I was like, you know what's better than finding a good lender? Is understanding exactly the process you need to refinance your house and where people can take money from you. That way you can buy many houses and refinance many houses, and you will be the one dictating what is best for you in the negotiation instead of looking for advice. And there's like a few principles you have to understand in any category of investments, right? With real estate, you have to understand how to get money from the bank, what the bank is trying to get from you, how to negotiate that deal. You have to understand when it's good for you to refinance. You have to understand interest rates, business cycles, right? It's only a few things that athletes are smart people. If you take the time to just understand a few things, you will get the concept. Then when you want to buy a house or refinance a house, you will understand what they're looking for and how you can play in a way where you are the one actually saving money, not paying everybody else and getting, left with a house that it was too expensive, but you just didn't know what to do and listen to other people that were trying to take your money. So yeah, I like working with athletes, but mostly teaching them what to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you still watch MMA at all? Like, are you still as invested as when you were fighting?
No, not anymore. There's like the identity thing that I'm like, I don't fully understand this anymore. There's the time, because I'm fully invested in jiu-jitsu now, so I have to watch jiu-jitsu, and I love watching jiu-jitsu. And I don't know. There's like I lost a little bit of interest in there's so many fighters now.
Yeah.
So many. Like you have to have a lot of time to keep track of what's happening in MMA. But I like watching the fighters. I like even outside of the UFC. Francis is a guy that I love watching. It's always gonna be a kill. But
Nuke.
Yeah.
but I do not watch a lot of it.
Yeah. I'm sure it's hard. Like, do you ever, I've asked Francis this before, but you being retired now, do you ever see old highlights or of yourself, or if you're watching a fight on TV and just be like, why the fuck did I ever do that?
I do this all the time.
All the
I'm
time,
like,
huh?
why?
Yeah.
Like, how did I do this?
Yeah.
I don't understand why, and I don't understand how, because I would never do it today.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
If you give me a lot of money, I'll be like, I'll fight an influencer. I'll fight Nina. I'll fight Nina. Yeah. But like a professional
Nina.
fighter
Yeah.
trained to kill me? No, I'm not doing that.
That's so funny.
What's up, guys? Get on the sports betting action by going to mybookie.ag. At MyBookie, it's easy. You bet, you win, they pay. MyBookie has over 150 bets for you to choose from anything from fights, hoops, football, prop bets, minute bets. It's all there. Head to mybookie.ag and use code VERSUSPOD. Not only will you get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000, you'll also get a $10 casino chip. That's a lot of money there. I've seen large parlays cash for less. Yeah, every once in a while, again, head to mybookie.ag and use the code VERSUSPOD. You bet, you win, they pay. Now let's get back to the show.
That seems like a good transition. Maybe we could talk about just a couple fights on the card this weekend.
Yeah.
International Fight Week coming up. Looks like it's going to be a really good card. So let's get into the UFC 317 MyBookie betting breakdown. Again, head to mybookie.ag for all your bets on these fights. They have it all for you. You bet, you win, they pay. Okay, first fight. We're just going to talk about kind of the top three fights.
Sure.
Because this card is deep, and I don't want to get into every single one of them, but first fight that we'll get into is one that was booked before, Beneil Dariush and Renato Moicano. Moicano on the mic. I always look forward to that anytime that he's going to be on a mic. But Beneil Dariush is the underdog in this fight, plus 127. Renato Moicano, minus 160. So maybe initial thoughts to you, Eric, on Dariush and Moicano.
Yeah, I think Dariush has kind of looked a little old in those last few fights, right?
Yeah.
But I actually think Beneil has the better grappling.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But I think Moicano wins the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
How do you think, like, on the feet, do you think he...
I think on the feet, using his length, keeping the range, I don't think he's scared to go to the ground with Beneil, but I think Beneil has a kind of an anti-jiu-jitsu style of grappling where he can nullify some of the jiu-jitsu of Moicano. But I think if Moicano keeps it on the feet, I think he wins the fight, to be honest.
What do you think, Claudia?
I'll go with Moicano too. I agree with Dariush. He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Right. I have amazing memories of him knocking people out. But I believe Moicano is kind of in his momentum now where he's like, he found his identity.
Yeah.
It's like a funny guy that people like to watch.
Yeah.
He's good on the mic. He's a killer. So I think Moicano will use his length and kind of get into the pocket. And I believe Moicano will get a knockout.
Yeah. My favorite thing is Moicano calling Dariush old, and they're the same age.
I love it. Isn't it funny? Like, even, for example, like Mansoor and Edmund are both 27 years old.
Yeah.
But when you think about Mansoor being like his fourth fight in the UFC or third fight
Edmund's
in the UFC.
been fighting for like 5 years or whatever in the
Right.
UFC.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And they're both 27 years old, but it feels like Edmund's like 80.
That's how I always felt about Aldo.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Aldo's like got to be like 38, and he's like 29. I'm like, what the fuck?
Edmund's a hobby at the same age. One guy's a contender, the other one just retired. You know,
I'm like, dude, that's how I feel about Max now.
Yeah.
Because Max has been in the UFC since he was like 20.
Sure.
And he's like, what, 31, maybe 32?
Yeah.
I'm like, this
What?
dude's been fighting for
31?
He's got to be. Yeah, he's not that old.
Wow.
Yeah, he's not that
I'm
old.
like, this dude's been fighting for 20 years. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. I hope Moicano wins just to hear him on the mic afterwards. So, Yeah. All right, next fight, the co-main event, which has been coming for a while, I feel like. Alexandre Pantoja, big favorite, minus 265.
Wow.
Against Kai Kara-France, coming back at plus 225. I can't remember. Did they fight on their season of The Ultimate Fighter?
They did.
They did, right? Pantoja won?
Pantoja won.
Was that the only time they fought, or did they fight in UFC before?
They never fought in the UFC again. That was on the Ultimate Fighter. I think that was the one fight that they
It
had.
was, huh? Okay. Yeah, interesting fight. Kai has looked really good. Obviously, Pantoja is just a killer.
Yeah.
Early thoughts on this fight?
Pantoja.
Easy?
No, I don't think easy, but I think he just has the blueprint. I think he gets to the back. He holds guys down. He slows the fight down. He has a good chin.
He has a great chin.
Great chin.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Pahumpa, his coach. Like, I just love the game plans that they put together. He is a fighter game plan type of coach. Like, he can adapt his style to the fighter. And I think that's very important. Does Kai Kara-France have a path to victory? Absolutely. He can knock a lot of people out.
Yeah.
But I just think when you have a guy like that, just get to your strong routes, and that's putting a guy on his back and then making a jiu-jitsu match, grapple this dude, slow him down, make him pummel, get him in those transitional submission attempts and things like that. I think Pantoja gets him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I agree. Pantoja, he comes out like, he's gonna chase your back right away, and he gets to your back right away, right? But it's funny because like he starts looking tired at the third round, like middle of the second round, beginning of the third round. But then he can fight tired.
Yeah.
Right, like he does. I mean,
He gets
body
like that
language wise,
second
when you
win.
look at his body language, oh, he's
Yeah,
tired.
exactly.
He's like, I don't give a fuck.
I'm tired, but I'm not done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Julian Orosa. Like sometimes, like Julian's just he's willing. Like, I'm just gonna die. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna keep going. I know I'm tired, but I'm just gonna keep fucking working.
I think that's like one of the main reasons why Pantoja is so resilient right now, because he goes for whatever he wants, right? He game plans with Pahupa. I'm gonna get to the back. I'm gonna wear you down. I'm gonna make you tired. I'm also gonna get tired, but I'm more resilient. I'm gonna stay in it, and I'm gonna stay in the game plan now, and I will win. And I think he will use that now against Kai and. To the same, I believe, because Kai is so lengthy too. If Pantoja gets to his back, it's very hard to get out of it.
He's very smart, and to your point, in understanding his pit stops. He'll create scrambles.
Pantoja?
Yes. What I mean by that is like he'll scramble until he gets to a position where he can rest. He's not going to rest in a bad spot, and he's not going to rest until he gets you in a position where he knows, okay, I can get to your back. I have topside half. I have a position where maybe it's even closed guard, topside closed guard. Okay, I can rest here, right? I won that position. I won that scramble. But when you see his scrambles go, dude, the dude's fighting for that position to where, okay, I'm going to rest here now. I can take a little break.
If he's just a hard worker, right? Like,
Sure.
I mean, I feel like I don't know if you guys saw, but TJ McConnell's a player for the Pacers. Did you see the interview where he was like, hard work is a skill? Did you see that? That's what like Pantoja reminds me of that guy.
Yeah.
Like hard work is a skill. Like he'll be tired, but these next 15 minutes, he's still coming for your ass like every minute of those 15 minutes.
I think it's something to say about a guy who was driving Uber while he was in the
Uber
UFC,
Eats, right, or whatever.
Right, like just like that mentality of like we were saying earlier. Like I refuse to be broken in these situations.
Yeah.
There's no wonder why the guy's a great champion.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because Pantoja is a Novo Uniao protege too. When I got there, he wasn't there, but he would come to train sometimes, and then later in his career, he spent a lot of time there with us. So he was my main sparring partner for a few years at Novo Uniao, and then he moved to Florida. And I feel like, because he was always so good. Like he beat Formiga, José Formiga before the UFC. And I could not believe at his ability to take people's back. I was like, he can just take everybody back like that. He was doing this very early on, but he was like so talented, but he wouldn't show up to do the work before, like early in life. And then when he moved to Florida, got married and had kids, I feel like that's when things changed. And we see a lot of fighters going through that. Things really changed for him. And he was like, I'm going to drive the Uber, make it happen, not accept to fail, and he made it all the way to
the top.
become the UFC champion. And now, like, how many people did he beat now at the top?
Yeah, he's had a.
I mean, dude, he beat Beneil. He's beaten Moreno.
Yeah,
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
Now it's tough.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to pull up his record. Sorry, give me a second. So he made his debut 2017 after the Ultimate Fighter. He beat Eric Shelton. His first loss was Dustin Ortiz. He lost a unanimous decision. Lost to Figueiredo. His last loss was 2020 to Askar Askarov.
Wow.
and Askar was no joke.
His win streak,
Olympic wrestler.
Beneil, Royval, Alex Perez, Moreno, Royval, Urseg, Kai Asakura.
Pretty damn good.
Holy shit.
Pretty damn good, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I think Urseg probably gave him one of the toughest fight. You know, the fight he had with Manel was a great fight.
Yeah.
It was a really good fight.
Yeah. That was when Manel said his feet kept sliding, right? Or something like that? Or
I mean, Manel's always had that problem.
Has he?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot more due to his style.
Yeah.
But yeah, his feet, he's always sliding out. But his style is very, switching stances and angles and things like that.
That sucks he got hurt because him and Royval would have been fun.
Fucking sucks,
and him
dude.
and Pantoja is going to be a great fight if and when it happens again.
Hopefully.
But yeah, you guys think Pantoja finishes, Kai? Just the last thing on this.
If he gets to the back, like Claudia was saying, if he's on the back that many times with that much options, especially early on, if it's dry, if he gets to the back in the first round, absolutely. Why, I think he definitely can.
Yeah.
I think he'll come in early on trying to get to the back and finish the fight, and I believe he can.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Who fight? I mean, I guess Beneil would be the only one. But I mean, does he move up? Like Pantoja's cleared out the division and almost like twice at this point.
Sure. Is he a big 25er or does he have a?
I don't know. He doesn't look like it to me, but I mean, maybe you would know better than.
I don't think he's big enough for 135.
Yeah. I think if that is the case, it needs to be more of a stylistic matchup that makes sense, where him and Merab would make sense as a fun stylistic matchup, right?
Yeah.
Two guys that can grapple. But with that being said, it's like there is still some fights I think that he has to make, but I think guys are this is kind of the trend now. It's like, all right, I've cleared it out, I've done this, I'm moving up.
Yeah, I kind of don't like it. Even with this next fight with Ilia, like I'm excited for this fight, but like, come on, man. You did beat the two greatest in that division, but like, you got a couple more you could do. But let's talk about him now. Charles Olivera plus 300.
Ooh.
3-1 underdog against Ilia Topuria minus 400. Charlie Olives, he's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to hear both you guys' thoughts on this. But yeah, Claudia, let's start with you.
Man, this was gonna be hard because see, Charles, like you can't bet against Charles. I would never bet against him, but also Topuria is in his fucking momentum.
He is a Terminator right now.
He's a fucking beast. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. Every time I felt like Charles was challenged, he beat the other person, right? Even against Dariush, it was like, really? Like that? Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be very hard. And even Charles and, what's his name?
Armand?
The Conor McGregor guy, I forgot his name. Chandler, right? Like even that fight, I thought Chandler was gonna like get a knockout in one of the punches that they were trading on the pocket. But I believe that Charles will always have a chance because he is who he is. I'm not gonna say, he doesn't have a chance, but Topuria is just in a level now that it's hard to reach. It's hard to be on that level now, and I don't know. It's hard. I have to go with Topuria because of the level he's in, but I also don't want to bet against Charles because I know he can pull off a knockout or a submission at any time.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm tired of like betting against this guy.
so many bet against him against Volk. Bet against him against Max.
Yeah. On camera.
Yeah.
Telling Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out well.
Yeah.
But man, I'm with you. Like I think when you try to game plan against this guy, what are you trying to accomplish if you're Charles Oliveira in this camp, right? Like, what's your game plan versus him?
What are his weaknesses? Because like truly, like I listen to other fighters and coaches, and none of them really say that he has like that. Topuria, I'm talking about, that he really has that many weaknesses.
He doesn't.
Like
the only thing that you can really build off of, I think, is the Jai Herbert fight when he was hit with the same side head kick.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a deficiency in some of his defense, I think, when he's throwing maybe an opposite side where you can try to time a kick off of a punch that he's thrown. But dude, that's like impeccable timing. And it's also something that happened to him 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you got to think like, okay, I'm going to shore these things up.
Yeah.
I think game plan wise, if I'm Olivera in that camp, I am kicking a lot. I am trying to kick the head a lot to occupy his rear hand and keep it busy by blocking it. Does that mean it's going to lead to a knockout, or you got to try to slow him down somehow on the boxing? Definitely low kicks, calf kicks, and lead side high kicks to make him block. And then
wear the arms out a little bit.
Man, you have to. Yeah. You have to try to wear the arms out. You have to, like, even like with Edmund when we were fighting.
Bro, that was, I got to give you your props. That was such a clean, like, because I saw Beneil tweet something too. I think I texted you as well, like calling for like, hey, just throw the kick, hit his arm. Because who'd Edmund fight again? I'm sorry.
Andre Petrovsky.
Throw the kicks, hit his arms, tire his arms, and Edmund just came out, whack, whack, whack.
Broke his wrist.
Yeah, and then right then after like that third kick, you could see it was like wearing on him. So
well, we talk about this all the time. Like, you're not really always trying to aim for the head when you kick. When you make the block, we're aiming for here.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to kick you in the wrist, like the smallest part of your bones in your arm, not the ulnar or the radius. We're trying to kick through your hands. And that's what Ed did. He kicked him right in that blocking spot and broke the dude's wrist.
Yeah.
So with that being said, in the Topuria and Charles Oliveira fight, that's what I'm trying to do if I'm Oliveira. I want to ricochet fucking shin bones off this dude's forearms and try to take away some of that power and try to take away some of, you know, the cardio in a 5-round fight and maybe try to break his arms and do things like that. But also that transitional submissions, that's where Oliveira's is most dangerous. How can you get into these types of scrambles or something where you can jump a guillotine or you can jump a fucking Darce? The guy that can do it is Charles Oliveira, right? So to me, those are his limited paths to victory. But if I'm his camp, that's what I'm looking for, man. I'm trying to make some chaos and get on his neck in a transitional submission setting.
I'm interested to see how they look face to face, because Charles is a long 55er, right? He has long limbs.
Yeah.
And I want to see how Topuria looks next to him.
Size-wise,
like, obviously, he probably won't be as long, but I want to see his size, because obviously Topuria likes to back guys up to the cage.
Yeah.
Charles, to me, it seems like he likes to use the cage to like manipulate his, submission attempts and things like that.
Sure.
So I'm interested to see how they stack up with one another physically. Do you think Charles plays the fake knockdown, come into my guard game with Topuria? Because I feel like Topuria would jump in there in a heartbeat.
He will.
Yeah, because I saw the Ryan Hall fight. He was like, "Fuck you in your guard game." Like,
well, and then you go back to the Michael Chandler fight.
Yeah.
Remember, stylistically, when we spoke about this when they fought, there's going to be guys that are anti-jiu-jitsu style grapplers. They're not going to stay in your guard. They're going to get to topside half guard and try to alienate or isolate the bottom leg to reduce some of the guard play. So by doing so, I think a guy like Topuria, who his grappling is just as good as his boxing. We just don't see it a whole hell of a lot. I don't think he's going to be afraid to go to the ground with him under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
When it's in your favor to go to the ground with him, right? But like we were saying in the transitional submission parts, it's like, hey, maybe you leave your head hanging into a clinch position. If you're Charles Oliveira, why not jump a guillotine then? A guillotine attempt. In very rare scenarios are you ever asking for that, but when you have a guy like a specialist, like when I used to coach Vinny, I was like, bro, you are one of the best jumping guard guys, flying arm bars, triangles. You've done them. You've landed them. Who am I to tell you not to? If you feel that is there for you, by all means, go for it. Because I think those are really his best chances to win, to be honest. So why not try for it? I think my prediction, Topuria gets him, but I think it's going to be a body shot. That's my thoughts.
You think he gets him out of there with a body shot?
I think it's
or
gonna,
drops him with a body shot.
If I'm Topuria's camp, like you said, height, length, all those things, you're gonna have to get inside. And I think this is what, like, I look at it if I'm Dan Ige, right, and we're fighting like Sean Woodson or a guy who's taller, our target zone is always here to start, and then we'll finish upstairs. But I think he's going to be able to find him to his body. That's what I would hunt for if I'm Topuria.
Smart.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Charles got a chin too. I don't know. He's had this resurgence, obviously, the last however many fights after Felder. And, he's taking shots from Gaethje and some of these hard-hitting guys.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Max took a lot of shots too and couldn't stand up to that Topuria.
But, okay, Topuria starches Charles Oliveira. He's got arguably one of the best runs.
I don't think it's the only thing that would make it better is if it had been Islam instead of Charles.
Yeah.
But that's the greatest 3-fight winning streak maybe ever.
If it was Islam.
If it was Islam.
Sure.
Even if it's Charles, though, like, it's up there.
I mean, dude.
It's fucking up there.
You took out fucking Max and Volk and then Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
All former champions, all former pound for pound guys.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, dude, why wouldn't you make that Islam fight?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you can't have him go up to 170, can you?
No, but I mean, like,
you got to have him come back down.
Stop with the title bullshit.
Yeah. Thank you.
No one gives a fuck.
Thank
you. Like, I really don't. I want to see the best fights.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. Make him a 5-round fight. Dude, like, even with Francis, when we beat Renan Fajeda this last one, I'm like, oh, we won a title? Like, oh, I didn't even fucking like, we didn't even think about it, bro. It's more about the matchups. It's about the fight.
The pageantry is not there anymore as it once was.
Yeah.
To be like double champ and do all these things. Like, it just isn't. But yeah, he knocks out Olivera, bro. It's like, okay, this dude automatically is like top 5, top 10, like ever. Yeah.
And I feel like he's the type of dude to keep his head on straight. He's not going to be a Connor situation.
He is confident as fuck though. Like, you hear some of these interviews and he's like, yeah, Charles is fucked. He's like, I'm sorry, I like Charles, but he's fucked. And I'm like, damn, bro, like you're talking kind of like crazy. He said the same thing about Max though. Yeah. He said the same thing about Volk and every other person he's fought so far. So
when you watch him, what makes him so good?
I ask myself that question all the time. Why is this guy so fucking good? I think he's so resilient, and like, his confidence has to come from work ethic and like having a good team around you. Like, I think that plays a way bigger role than people think. Like, your team around you watching what you do and like coaching you through what you have to do is one of the most important things. But I think his resilience is like the number one skill he has outside of, what he built in his arsenal.
Sure.
What do you think?
I mean, yes, all of that. And then the X's and O's, like when you hear him talk and break down fights and like what he's seeing conceptually in his game planning, I thought it was interesting that him and his coach split ways. Yeah. But it made me kind of think that it's more him and his brother. Like more of it, like him and his brother are the ones putting this together. That was my first thought. As a coach, I felt bad for the coach, thinking that like, hey, you've made it to this point now, and it's like, oh, now we're separating. It's like, oh, we did all this work to be there. Mm-hmm. But when you watch him fight, I look at like 2 game plans. I look at the way that he executes his geography in the cage, middle of the cage is one type of offense. And then, dude, it turns into fucking the run and shoot when he gets you backed up to the barrier. Yeah. And all of his finishes, every single one. And we were talking about this with Volkanovski when he was fighting Max. I did a little show with Volk. And I was like, if you notice where all of his finishes are, they're against the corner post. And Volkanovski's like, God damn it. Because that's where, but again, my point is that he's very methodical and very systematic in the center of the cage and does a very good job of just slowly putting you into the choke points of the cage. And then his offense turns into fucking hell. And it's knocking dudes' heads off, and it's body shots to overhands and overhands to liver to hooks to try to put your lights out. but he does it because he has you flanked into these corner posts, and that's where he knows where your exits go. We talked about it yesterday in the seminar, like with like cage control, and to me, I think he's right now the best in the game to do that. Conor was one of the best, if you really go back and break down Conor, but right now, man, it's Topuria.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
I think, bro, I bet you if we looked and went through, I bet you all of his finishes are inside the black line.
Probably. I mean, yeah, probably. I'm trying to think of the ones I know just off the top of my head. Like, what's his name?
Damon Jackson.
Damon Jackson.
Smoked him there.
Volk. Max.
Yep.
Ryan Hall was, and then he
just died in that area.
And then
Bryce Mitchell was against the cage.
Bryce Mitchell was against the cage.
And that was a submission.
Emmett didn't get finished, but all the damage really happened around that black line.
Sure.
So yeah.
The guy that gave him the best
Jai
fight
Herbert.
was Jai Herbert was against the cage.
Yep.
But the guy that gave him the best fight was Yusuf Zalal. Him and Yusuf had a really good fight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see what happens.
That's
like
this week, right?
It's
Holy shit.
Saturday.
International Fight Week. Wow.
You're
We're
not
here.
even going, huh?
Yeah.
You're not doing.
No, but we have UFC BJJ
Yeah, you got
1.
BJJ on Thursday.
Crazy,
right?
huh?
Yeah.
How far we have come.
Real quick, plug that. What exactly? When is it? Where is it? Can the public attend it? If they can't, how can they watch it?
So UFC BJJ 1, it's gonna be live on fightpass. You're gonna sign up for fightpass to watch that. It's gonna be at the Apex, invite only.
Okay.
We got 8 matches. The 4 guys that made it to the finale of the reality TV show would be fighting for the lightweight and welterweight titles. And Mikey Musumeci and Harrison Gabriel, the coaches, will be fighting for the first ever UFC BJJ titles.
Wow.
It's going to be the 3 first UFC BJJ titles.
Are those going to be the only weight classes? Bantamweight, lightweight, and welterweight? Or
No, we copying the UFC. We got so we got 6 weight divisions now, 2 for women, but we're gonna build it up.
what's the 2 for women? 15 and
Flyweight and 140. The 145ers. So flyweights, 125ers, and we got
Featherweight.
the featherweights.
145.
145.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about our boy Kobe Fair stepping on
Crazy.
one day? What was it? Would you call him on the?
Man, like I trained with him a lot at Extreme Couture, and he's so good. Such a good grappler. Good
Everyone
wrestler.
says it too, man. Like I've never met one person from XC. Obviously, Eric coaches him, but I've never met one person that hasn't said he's so fucking good.
He's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And
He's very good. His MMA grappling is unreal, and he's a
Unreal.
great grappler all around.
Yeah.
But I think his grappling is better style for MMA. Would you
Way
agree?
better.
Because of his ground and pound. I
Yeah.
mean, what he's able to do on top side. He can,
I think when you come from wrestling and you understand positioning, now you add submissions and control, like it's game over, and it's what he did with his game. But when you go to jiu-jitsu, there's like so much of the leg entanglement game and the foot locks that these people spend so much time understanding that it's hard for MMA fighters to build up to that level. But he was gonna fight for the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 11 on Thursday, and I needed somebody to replace a guy that didn't make weight in the reality TV show, and I was like, I need somebody right now. Like, it's 7 a.m. I'm like calling Coach Nate and calling him. He's not answering. I'm like,
of course he's not.
he's not answering. I'm
Kobe.
like, I need somebody in the next 2 hours, And then he woke up, saw my text, and I said, "What time? What time do I need to be there?" I was like, "Okay, you got to be there at 4 p.m. at 155 pounds." He said, "I got it. I'll be there."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
he got into the reality TV show. Unfortunately, didn't win a fight, but I definitely want to have him back because his grappling is special, and I like to see the difference too. I like people to see the difference between a jiu-jitsu specialist and an MMA grappler that has his level. Not just
All American
MMA
wrestler.
grappler. Yeah.
What was his line though? It was pretty cold. He
What'd he
said,
say?
"If we were in jail, I know this dude be washing my undies." He said he might have beat me in jiu-jitsu, but if we're in jail, he'd be washing my undies. Fucking Kobe.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
That's a great line. Well, I think that about does it. Anything else you wanna say?
No, man. Long overdue. Love you.
Thank you.
It's been, I mean, dude, just having you in the gym and, you know, your energy. Every time you walk in the gym, I get goosebumps. Like I just love and hugs and everything else. And being there for your last couple fights was an honor to be there. I think one of my favorite pictures of all time was when she beat Angela Hill, you know, and just me and her hugging it up. Cause dude, during COVID, man, we didn't have anything, right? We had each other and we trained every day. We worked every day. And you made our gym better. So thankful to have you and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a pleasure for me to be here and, you know, bringing emotions out of me. But like you said, you know, during COVID, it was like us. It was, you know, we only had each other. And, you know, I want to thank you for being the special coach you are. I think there's like a lack of leadership, not only in sports, but in business and in life, in this life in general. You know, I think most people are so soft these days and most people don't want to do the hard things. And I love bonding with people that want to do the hard things with you. And we did a lot of hard things together. So thank you for all you do and continue to do to these fighters that really need your help. And thank you for having me here.
Of course. Thank you. It was so nice to have you. It's been long overdue. We've known each other for a long time, and you've always been solid to me. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on the show. So
Thank
we'll
you.
do it again soon.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. All right. That does it for another episode of Versus Us with Eric Nixick. Please make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop a comment. Let us know who you want to see on the show or any questions you have for the show. Also, make sure you download the audio version of the podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, anywhere. And also follow the show on social media at VSUS Pod. For Eric and Claudia, I'm Randy. We'll see you guys next time.